Can I ask you a question? Because
Yeah.
I think what some people enjoy, at least I know for me with strength training, what I enjoyed, especially at the start, was feeling something other than pain, which sounds really dark.
Yes.
When you have chronic pain and then you go and you do something to your muscles, you do an exercise correctly without injuring yourself. Key is that you do it correctly without injuring yourself.
Yes.
You then have that feeling of healthy muscular fatigue.
Exactly.
Which is technically, it's a healthy inflammatory process for remodeling that tissue. And that feels so pleasant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of building off that also, when I'm in the gym, I feel like I'm not using, yes, you're using your brain to exercise, but like the loud and anxious thoughts are not as present because my body is tired.
Yeah.
So it's not like my brain is also tired then. And so the thoughts that are the compulsive anxiety, that's quieter.
Have you heard of heavy work?
No. What's
So I don't have diagnosed ADHD, but there's a lot.
Yeah. I do. So,
there we go. There we go. We all know how it is. But I used to, I've had boyfriends over the years, and they'd come home and be like, Alex, why have you moved all the furniture in the flat? And it did tend to correlate with me being a bit like anxious or something going on. And for me, I started to realize when I learned about heavy work, which is a term for types of exercise or movements or different activities that people will do sometimes to kind of, and again, I'm not a mental health expert, okay, this is not my area of expertise, but it kind of like helps to calm you down a bit and lets you just feel a bit more, as you said, like it takes all those like scattered thoughts away and just makes you feel more at peace, I guess I would say. When I learned about that, I was like, oh, this is why I really like strength training. And for me, it's not even about the physical aspects. Like my number one concern is how my mental health would deteriorate if I'm not able to exercise. That's my greatest fear. I think you and I've talked about that. But yeah, that's heavy work.
I relate to that so much.
Hey, I'm Hypermobile, and if you're listening to this, I'm guessing you might be too. Hi, my name is Alex, and I'm your Hypermobile host, and today we have on a very, very special guest. Abby is here with us today. Abby, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate you asking me to be here today.
I'm honestly shocked you're here, given that you have no social media presence. Like, I was not expecting you to be, happy to be here, but I'm delighted.
I appreciate it. I actually, to comment on that, I did have an Instagram, like at one point in my life, and it's still active. And I will occasionally post something on it. But I only have started reposting things more recently because I entered a writing competition. This is not a plug for that. This is just me talking about that.
But I want to know more.
I did not win, but the woman who was like running it was like very Instagram heavy. And so the only reason I like posted something was because I thought she would unfairly judge me because I'm like a hermit. And I didn't win anyway. And I maintain that it's because I'm a hermit, not because my entrance piece wasn't good.
There you go. The complex world of writing competitions. Can I ask real quick? By the way, we have you on because you're going to talk about, just to be clear for the audience, you're going to talk about we're not going to talk about that entirely. We're going to talk about your childhood spinal injury, had a really serious injury as a child. We're going to talk about how you've kind of renegotiated a relationship with exercise and how you found strength training to really help you, given that you're dealing with joint hypermobility. But back to the writing thing. Tell me real quick. What was it? Can you tell me in vague terms what the story was about?
So it was like the first chapter of something I'm working on that is more of a long form. I don't know how long it'll be, but I've had a story kind of in my brain that I've been trying to get out on paper. Yeah. Everyone says you need to, like, if you actually want to be an author, you have to write a bunch of bad books before you write a good one. So I'm trying to like write all that bad stuff, but I thought I would submit it because the prize was like that chapter would get edited by a professional editor.
Amazing.
So I was like, that's really cool, but I didn't win.
Well, next time, Abby, next time, too, I should mention this more often, but partly why we're doing this season, because it's been a year and a half since I recorded my last season of Help, I'm Hypermobile, is because I will soon theoretically be an author. It's just crazy. The book is Help, I'm Hypermobile, and it's kind of a little bit the vibe of this podcast is looking at the realities of life for people with HEDS, HSD. We touch on other hypermobility related connective tissue disorders, and also we have to remember that there are people who have generalized joint hypermobility who are not diagnosed for whatever reason, partly because diagnosis takes forever. So tell me a little bit real quick about, if you don't mind me asking this, your earliest memory of being hypermobile or that kind of affecting you. Like, was it the injury we're going to talk about in a second, or was there something before that?
I mean, I've always been really flexible. And people commented on that a lot as a kid. Like even just a few weeks ago, I was hanging out with my sister and we were both like trying to touch our toes because we just finished hiking. And she was like, "You've always been able to do that. Like how?"
Is that a thing everyone does after hiking? Do you just like
I don't know, just like stretching, I guess. And she just commented on it, and it was that kind of stuff. I think as a kid, where like when did you ever have to do those? Like you probably didn't, because where I grew up, they made you basically do these like presidential fitness tests. So one of the things you had to do was like touch your toes as far as possible, because you had to push the bar, and I was just very, very good at that one, and I would get the blue medal for doing that, which is like the highest medal you could get. And I was like, how is this a physical fitness challenge? Like it's just pushing a bar past my feet. So I was always flexible, I guess, but I never really noticed anything else before the injury.
Okay, so no like serious pain issues or stuff when you were like 4 years old or whatever. No, in Canada, at least in my gym class, we did have to do all these weird like measuring, bending, stretching things. I think I touched like 20 centimeters past my toes, which is wild, but it's not because I'm that flexible in my hips per se, although I'm flexible is the wrong word, hypermobile I should be saying, but I have really long arms and a really long back and unfortunately short legs. People say they're like normal length. Maybe they are normal length. I don't know. But
I've never noticed short legs on you.
My arms and back are just so long. You'll see like you think I can't reach something off a shelf, and then my arms just come out. And then I, like, it's like like what builders use, are those like ladders that they like extend like this up.
I was gonna say one of those like those bendy things that stand outside car dealerships that like wave in the wind.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that. They are heavy, long, and large arms. But enough about me. Okay, let's talk about you. Back to your back.
Yeah,
if I can say it. Tell me like what happened, because you were just having a chill childhood.
Yeah, as one does.
Life.
I was on my school's basketball team in elementary school, and I played point guard, which was my position. Basically, that's the person that like brings the ball up the court and then tries to get the ball to other people so they can score, because I was short, and that's what the short person typically does because you're not that close to the basket. And I'm from Ohio. I think I need to say this because the girls who we were playing against were a team from Kentucky. And my mom was always like, "Oh, those corn-fed girls from Kentucky. Like, you gotta be like aggressive with them." And my dad was actually the coach of the team, which is, I think, a little bit of context here, because he had been like, giving me advice about how to like get on the ball with the girl who I was like against. And I was like, okay, I need to be really aggressive because she is a lot larger than me. And when there's that size differential, a lot of the time she can just physically overpower me, which is what continually was happening in this game. No. And so at this point, what I remember before the injury occurred was I was, dribbling the ball down the court, and this girl was again trying to physically overpower me. And I was really annoyed about it because this was like the third or fourth time during the match that she had done this. And I was like, it's unfair. It's a size differential. So she tries to take the ball from me, and I'm just like not letting that happen. So I like grip onto it really, really tightly. And instead of just like, letting that go, typically the referee will blow a whistle when there's what they call a jump ball, when two of the players like will not let go of the ball and they have to separate and one team will get the ball. But that didn't happen because it looked like there was still a possibility for one of us to win this jump ball. And instead,
you were not letting go.
I was not letting go. And instead, she basically was physically able to lift me by like me grabbing onto the ball and drop me onto the floor. And I landed on my back, still holding the ball, mind you, but she also landed on top of me.
Wait, so
we were kind of wrestling, and I fell to the floor.
There's a word for this. So Dave, my boyfriend, he's really into wrestling.
Yeah.
And what's it? I don't even know.
Is it body
word.
slam?
I think
that's
it might be.
What I didn't want to physically say body slam, but that's
you got body slam.
I got body slammed.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I fractured my L4 and L5 vertebrates in my lower back on both sides. I laid on the floor for a little bit after this, but both of us were disqualified from the game for this egregious fight.
But you weren't being aggressive.
Well, they said that we were, and there had been warnings previously, that you guys need to knock it off. At this point, though, I just kind of like hobbled off the floor and like to the side of the court, and was like, I something doesn't feel normal.
Did you have like sharp pain in your back when you were taking those steps, or was it just a total blur for you in terms of?
To be quite honest, it's really a total blur. I think because I was in so much pain. Do you know when like something happens and you're in so much pain that you just cannot even remember a lot of the moments around?
Well, yeah, and bone pain I find is specific. So I fractured 5 bones.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, when you do a fracture, again, people don't always know. I've had patients where they think they've sprained something. I send them for MRI, we see a fracture there. But bone pain, at least in my experience, having fractured stuff before, it's like a very deep, like, oh, shoot type of pain. There's like, I've done a boo-boo. Like, this is a no-no.
Yes. No, from what I can remember, it was very similar to that because even when I sat down, the pain didn't go away.
Yeah.
And like at that age, I hadn't experienced pain like this before. Like I'd felt, pain from stretching or pain from other things, but never had I felt this acute intensity of pain. And so it didn't go away. It just kept hurting. And I like would complain to my PE teacher, like, my back hurts. I don't think I can like do this. And I kept saying to my mom, and I want to preface, no shade to my mom.
Yeah.
She has 4 children. She was a full-time pediatrician. Like she was working her butt off to support our family. But like, she was also like, Abby, you're fine, go to school. Abby, you're fine, go to school. And I was like, Mom, but my back really hurts. And she's like, it's going to be okay. Go to school. So I kept going to school, but I failed a test for the first time. And so my teacher called up my mom and was like, I think there's something wrong with Abby because she's never done this poorly on an assignment before. And I just think that maybe you should look into it.
Yeah.
So my mom finally agreed to take me to the doctor. So I went to the doctor, and the first thing the doctor really asked me to do was like touch my toes. And that's one of the things I had always been, as we had been saying, really good at. I couldn't like get past my hips. I like bent over as far as I could. And I'm like, my arms were coming like to my thighs. I was like, this is it. This is all I got. Yeah. And my mom was like, oh. And then I went to go get an MRI. And I had all those the fractures, and she was like, okay, yeah, this is a serious injury. And then I had to wear a back brace for like 6 to 8 months, I think. And it also coincided with, being, at this point I was 12 years old. So it's a very formative, time in your life. I couldn't play the rest of the season out for basketball. And I was also meant to switch schools, like to a middle school in the next year. And I was feeling very defeated because my entire social scene had really been around. I was dance and basketball. Like I did ballet and tap and jazz. And then I also played basketball. And so all my friends really I'd gone to a small school, so that wasn't really an issue. But I planned when I switched schools to join the sports teams and make new friends that way.
And back then too, like you, like me, kind of grew up pre-internet being huge. Yeah. It's like the way that kids played was like go outside, like your friends were doing things.
Your razor scooter.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember those. But yeah, like it's like it's not like you had like some online community you could be a part of. Like there weren't really these same types of like ways people can.
Are 12-year-olds in online communities?
I don't know what kids do. I don't care. I have 2 cats, but like people can like, I don't know, you can play video games and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
We don't have video.
I had Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. You probably got a lot of Animal Crossing in.
I did.
Were you scared of Rossetti?
Absolutely. I had nightmares about that guy.
I'm still scared to open up that game. Like we're keeping that closed. That is the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're someone who plays Animal Crossing, you'll get this. If you don't, then you're going to be really confused. But anyway, so you had all this going on. Now, when was hypermobility mentioned? Like, when did that come up or start?
So it's actually really interesting because the concept of being hypermobile wasn't brought up to me until I think 2022, because I did a bunch of physical therapy to recover from this injury. I didn't participate in a lot of like physical activity for a really long time. But then in 2022, I was doing my master's degree and I was writing my dissertation, and I had to sit down all the time at my desk and just force myself to write. But at that point, I hadn't really been, I led a pretty sedentary lifestyle during the COVID times and whatnot, but like I hadn't spent hours upon hours in the same exact position doing nothing. And so my back was like really starting to hurt. And it wasn't the exact same pain, but it was in the same spot. So I was like, I think I need to go back to the doctor. Like this, I haven't experienced the pain to this degree in so long. I should see somebody. So I went back. I still was able to go to the children's hospital at this time.
Wait,
in America. Like,
how old were you?
23.
16 is maybe 18, but like 20.
So because my mom's affiliated with the hospital,
That's
I think they
awesome.
made an exception for me.
Dude, pediatrics is the best. Like when I had my jaw surgery done, we'll talk about that in another episode, but like I got like I got into the pediatrics where it is, I find it's a more positive healthcare experience.
They're nicer to you.
Yeah.
Because you're technically a child, even though I was not even close.
And there was some unicorn wallpaper, which made me really happy. So anyways.
So I went to the children's hospital to get this, to basically just get reassessed by a physician there. And one of the things they asked me to do, classic, touch your toes. So I bend down, I touch my toes, and the doctor is astonished by this. She's like, hold on. I need to bring in some medical students to witness this. I'm like, why? Like, it's just touching your toes. And she's like, yes, but this is a classic example of hypermobility. And I was like, I don't know what that is. She's like, you have very hypermobile knees. Has anybody ever told you that before? I'm like, no, I don't know what that is.
It's really hard when like people just say these things about you but don't really explain it. I can find that it's great that she picked up on it. It just sounds like that would have been quite surprising or a lot to take in.
Exactly. And then when you bring in all these other medical students to like make me do weird positions, I felt like somebody at the circus. Like, I don't know. It was a very strange situation. And then like they made me do things with my arms. And I'd always like when I raised my arm up, people in school had made fun of me because my elbow, like, I don't know if you could see just from me doing this, but like my elbow joints are a bit strange.
Yeah.
They'll like point forward in some sort of ways. So I had an idea that like my joints were a bit odd, but I'd never thought about it.
You knew you were quirky. I think everyone who is hypermobile, or for people who go on to be diagnosed with HEDS or HSD, I've had patients with Marfan syndrome because again, by the way, it's really hard to talk about this stuff because I don't want to leave anyone out, but there are people undiagnosed, HEDS, HSD, Marfan syndromes, I don't know, other ones, whatever. But all of these people, they always tend to have a sense, even if like their symptoms are pretty minimal, that there's something different about them. Because they'll like to, like for me, it was being the 20-year-old who wanted to sit on the floor at dinner parties. They're like, let me get you a chair. I'm like, no. They're like, don't you want to sit in a chair? And I'm like, please no. Because I didn't know I was getting blood pooling. But it's like these little quirky things will kind of be sprinkled throughout people's youth. And then they start, when you figure out what's going on. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this all makes sense. But yeah, so all these medical students came in the room. They're making you do all these like different types of orthopedic tests and whatnot. What happened? Did you get any like guidance from there? Or were you just kind of thrown to the wind?
Go to physical therapy. And it was the same sort of stuff that I'd been told to do over and over again, like as a kid, which is like stand and hold this chair and move your leg out to a 45-degree angle, bracing your core, and like do this over and over again, and like do planks and lay and sit on the ground and put your back up against a wall and, touch your toes and, feel your hamstrings, like, and all this stuff that I was like, I don't know, it like kind of helped in some ways. Like the core stuff had always been sort of drilled into my brain, but nothing that anybody had ever really said made my body feel any better. Yeah. Or made me feel more comfortable moving in my body.
No, it's a really common experience. I think the whole like get physio thing is really problematic because not all manual therapy is the same and not all rehabilitative exercise approaches are the same. So a lot of patients, they're seeing people in this field. And again, I know that some people will disagree with me, but when a patient's seeing someone they're told to get physio, like I'm an osteopath, I do manual therapy on my patients. I also prescribe rehabilitative exercises, which is what a lot of physiotherapists will do and what some chiropractors will do. Although chiropractors sometimes will adjust people, but again, some won't. So the whole field, my dream is that it all becomes one like united profession one day. And I know some people disagree with me on that, but that's fine. This is the Alex show.
You can say what you want.
Exactly. That's my opinion. But when you're told to like get musculoskeletal expert support or whatever is meant by get physio, I think the big problem there is it's like if I told you like, Abby, like we're in London, go get some pasta. There are good pasta restaurants. There's bad pasta restaurants. There's different types. Yeah, there's like all different types. Like that patient needs to be told, hey, you're hypermobile. I want you to see a physiotherapist or osteopath or whatever who specializes in working with people who are hypermobile. so you can get correct support for your injury, because otherwise you're just being given like the standard treatment when you are someone with particular needs.
So like I kind of got lucky in this way because I saw the physio at the children's hospital like once or twice. And then my mom was like, why don't you see my physio? This guy in Cincinnati, who I think his name is Andy, I believe. And I went to go see him once, but I live in London. So I was just on holiday, like visiting my parents. And she was like, just see him one time before you go home. So I went and I saw her guy, and he did like ART on me. And I was like, oh, this is really, I feel a lot better after this. I'd never had that experience where a physio was able to address my pain rather than just like give me exercises. So I asked him, I was like, do you have any contacts in London, or do you know anybody in London who sort of does this type of movement? And he was like, yeah, I'll send you a name. And he sent me Alex's name, and that's how like we sort of met, and I was able to get on this current journey that I find myself on of addressing the pain in a more, I think, constructive way.
Yeah, we could talk more about kind of what we're doing these days. I should say also, like, you're my patient. Just full.
I just banged the mic. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Adjusting my legs.
Fidgeting is necessary here. I love how too when I'm like, you can take your shoes off. You're like, yep, taking those off. Okay. And I've seen you in every pretzel variation so far. You can put your feet on the table too. I don't care. But yeah, no. When it comes to what were you talking about? We were talking about like referrals, and you had active release techniques. You had ART. I should say active release techniques is a specific type of manual therapy protocol. So they're specific techniques done in specific ways. And again, I don't have a relationship with them other than the fact that I pay for their certifications because I think their courses are really good. So I'm not like an instructor. I don't work with the company. I just really value their certifications. And it's one of the, it's one of the postgraduate things like I look for when I'm looking to see someone for treatment, just because I regard it that highly. The reason for this is they make you recertify. So you've heard me talk about I have to go on these courses and do exams every year, cost me money, takes up my time, but it's good. And I still get nervous. I get like sweaty little like shaking hands, like trying to make sure I'm doing everything right. But what it does is it does mean that there's some type of degree of standardization.
Yeah, it's medical.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
you're a medical professional to be qualified.
Yeah. And I can say, look, I did this protocol. And let's say that you move to, I have a colleague in Berlin. You say that you move to Berlin. I could tell my colleague in Berlin, hey, I've done this protocol and this one and this one. They seem to help Abby. Could you continue with those? And we like speak the same language. So I think there's a lot of value in active release techniques. And it is a certification that I continue to maintain. What I also like about it too is the fact you're moving when you do it. Yeah. So I find it works really well for people who need to be able to move. And there's a lot of different ways I think that affects the muscles and the joints and the tissues and the neurological function of that patient. But that's a whole other science podcast. We won't get into that today. But yeah, I'm a big fan of ART. You are too.
Yeah.
And I think for hypermobile people, when it's done correctly, and I want to specify, it's not designed or developed for people who are hypermobile, okay? But I find that it can be used when it's adapted and modified to the individual patient, which is how all treatment should be done. You know, you want to always do patient-centered care. I think it can be a very effective treatment modality. So it's my primary form of manual therapy for my patients. But yeah, that's how you found me.
Exactly.
And here we are. Here we are. So you went through, basically, you had this really serious injury occur in childhood. Mm-hmm. You were then basically told, we talked about this a bit earlier, but you were told, like, don't do exercise.
Yeah.
And you just kind of
stopped. Well, it was like more that they said, don't do like high intensity physical exercise. And as a kid, when you're 12 years old, the only type of physical exercise you're really going to be doing is high intensity physical exercise. Like you're not going to be going to the pool and like, oh, I'm going to swim laps. Like a 12-year-old's not going to do that. So I was just really...
That was me.
Oh, I mean, I guess if you're on the swim team. Sorry, swim
that was
team.
Me for 4 hours a day. No, but look, the thing is too, like, even if you don't do the high impact stuff, you can injure yourself too. This whole
true,
because I was told like you, they're like, don't do any high impact exercises. So I took their advice.
Yeah.
But then I just did a lot of low impact exercise, which can also injure you.
So I basically took that as an excuse to just like not exercise.
Yeah.
And in some ways it was a positive impact on my life because it made me learn how to socialize in different ways rather than just being on, sports teams and having built-in friends that way. But it was also really negative because I couldn't really participate in a lot of different sports activities. And though that had been a big part of my life, and my family's pretty athletic and all of us played sports growing up. And it changed the way that the relationship that I had with my body and being able to trust my body. I felt like instead of my body being me being a part of my body, I was like kind of at war with my body. And that I never knew how something I would do was going to affect me. And I started to become hyper aware of just the different movements that I did, or how sitting in a position for too long would hurt, or just things that I think when you're a teenager and, go that early teens, you aren't really supposed to be thinking about. You're supposed to just be enjoying your life and figuring out things about yourself. But like this really impacted that for me. And so I didn't participate in really any physical activity. I tried to run cross country, which ended up hurting my back a bit. I tried to play basketball again, which I had to quit because it just was too bad. And then eventually I played softball for a little bit in high school, but it just like wasn't a positive experience. The only thing that I did, and I don't think we've ever talked about this before, which I'm going to probably surprise you a little bit. The only thing I did between like age 18 to 21, I did a little bit of pole fitness.
Cool.
Yeah. There was I had this music teacher in where I grew up in Cincinnati who she was really into pole fitness. And she was like, I think you should try this. But you couldn't do it until you were 18 because of like the regulations and whatever. And so when I was 18, I started doing it and I started like gaining a little bit of muscle. But I also realized how like I hadn't moved in any sort of way in so long. And I couldn't do a lot of movements that you needed to do. I was still flexible, but I wasn't like I was not able to bend my body in a lot of positions because I felt like my hips would hurt if I did something in the wrong way, or like I didn't have the built up strength necessary to do it. And so I would go like once a week. I did that like my senior year of high school. And then in college, I did it a little bit too, but not like a ton, to the point where by the time COVID hit, I pretty much was just sedentary all the time.
Okay. So did it help you get pull-ups and stuff? Like, did you do any upper body strength training to help you?
So I did no strength training except for the the thing I felt most accomplished about was being able to climb the pole all the way to the top and slide back down like a firefighter.
That's a very interesting routine.
Well, it's not even really upper body.
Yeah.
That's full legs.
Yeah.
And you just like stick your shin onto the pole and drive it in. And that hurt so bad. But I was like, this is really cool. But one of the things I noticed is how badly I would bruise after these things, because like you will get some bruising, but my bruising was always so much worse than the other girls.
It's that type of quirky thing too. It's like when you look at childhood photos of you as well, you're going to be way more bruised than your friends.
Yeah.
It's one of those other little things that just comes up for people.
And also just like scars on my body. So like when I was 13, I was at summer camp and I did a like mudslide and I stood up and I had this giant gash in the middle of my leg. And I had to get this like metal thing that had somehow gotten into my leg removed.
Oh my
and the
gosh.
doctor just like glued it back up. And there's this huge scar right here that like never fully healed.
I forgot that was what that was from. There's scars, other things.
Yeah.
You had a very North American childhood.
I did.
I love hearing about like summer camp, all these things. So you were navigating things okay. A lot of my patients do pull, by the way. It's a really common type of exercise.
Because it's low intensity.
Yeah, I love it. And it's upper body pulling.
Yeah.
I think you know how I feel about pull-ups. You know how I feel about upper body strength training. I think it's critical. We talked a little bit, we touched on my like really long arms at the start. Neck pain was kind of my worst thing. And having the strength, the interscapular muscle region strength, so kind of upper, mid, back strength to be able to hold my shoulder blades in place and do things with my upper body has helped me so much, because it helps me control the weight of my long arms. Okay. So they're not just like going wild and pulling on my neck and whatever. But for you, so you had pull and then COVID happened. And
because you couldn't really you could be in like group exercise. And at that point also like I like tried to go to the gym a little bit in college and like did one of those apps like where, you know, they schedule the
pass
workouts
or-
for you.
Okay, yeah.
No, it was like one of the, I don't even know what it's called. I don't want to plug anybody's app. That probably isn't very
Yeah.
good.
This show, we have no sponsors. So
there you
if
go.
anyone's listening, I'm just saying.
She was like some personal trainer that I'd seen like online or something. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll try her app. And
Why not?
it was fine, but I also had no idea what I was doing. And so I was kind of embarrassed to just go to the gym, not know what I was doing. And so I didn't really do that so frequently. And then COVID happened. And then I was doing yoga in my apartment in New York City and suffering, but like only a few times a week, not like intensive or anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're not moving, you put on weight, like you start to feel worse in your body in a lot of ways that, I mean, personally for me, I know other people, you know, might have different opinions about how they move and what they like to do. But for me, that sedentary lifestyle started to hurt me more than it helped.
It's so confusing when lying down hurts you and then standing up hurts you and walking hurts you and sitting hurts you. It's like, what do I do?
Exactly.
By the way, I love that you talk with your hands. You're like me, but your hand keeps going in front of the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry, camera.
Like, just like, because otherwise we're gonna have like 100% footage of you. And I'm like, it's okay. I love it. I love it. But look, you talked earlier too about feeling like you're at war with your body. I think that was a really important statement. I did a video, not that you'll have seen it because you aren't on social media really, but I did a video. It's one of my first kind of ones to go a bit viral, where I talked about not feeling at home in my body. So like my shoulder wouldn't feel settled. And that fear of your body kind of betraying you, where you're doing everything right. Like, because all these hypermobile young people, you know, they're the people, I was eating like spinach, I was doing yoga, you know, doing like all these different like
I was eating
exercises.
sour candy.
Yeah, well, some of us more than others, but it's like you'll be doing everything right? Like you did your physio exercises and whatnot. And then
I complained the whole way though.
well, that's a necessary part of everything. But you don't have that same recovery outcome. And then it's so disorienting and confusing. I know about you, but I felt like a failure. Like
Oh, absolutely. I felt like a failure. I also felt like a failure because I was like, well, I guess I will never be able to, you know, I loved playing basketball. I loved dancing. I loved all those things. And I was just like, well, I guess the things I like, it doesn't matter anymore that I like them. I will never accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. And your goals have to change. And also at that age, it's really hard to pivot because you have your heart set on things. And again, like you have your friends, you have your social scene through all of it. And then when that has to change too, you feel like a failure in more ways than just one.
No, absolutely. And did anyone think you were lazy? I know that's something I got. Yeah. I'd be going for a run. There was this one friend and her dad, and they were runners. And I I did a triathlon with her and other stuff. So I'd like to go for runs with them sometimes in my teens. And I would always be like, oh, my shoulders hurt when we were running. And the dad would just like kind of roll his eyes like, oh, Alex, like, you know, stop being lazy. And it's like my shoulders were in agony. And now that I can run without shoulder pain, I understand. Like,
You're winning.
No. Yeah, but I get too, like, that was messed up. Like, that's an unstable shoulder just jostling around in the joint, hurting. But it's hard just when you want to just be normal. Yeah, just do things. Just go for a run.
Exactly.
Like,
Not think too hard about it.
Go to a dance class. So look, we went through all that. You saw the ART provider in Cincinnati, I think you said. You then got referred to me. You saw me. How has your journey evolved since then? Take me through a bit of that.
So, okay. I think
you can be honest, by the way.
I will. So one of the things I started doing, even before I started seeing you, so this was like between seeing the ART provider in Cincinnati and then making my first appointment with you, I was like, what's something that I feel not super intimidated by in terms of physical activity that I could try? So I started going to spin classes only once a week. And that helped to some degree of like getting me to start moving again in a way that I thought was fun. Because I don't know, I found that like those PT exercises I was given to be just absolutely dreadfully boring and not useful, and I didn't want to do them because I dreaded doing them. So I was like, I know that this isn't really, you know, building that much strength, but what's fun for me to do? So I started.
Fun is important.
Yeah. So I started going to spin classes. I loved being like in the dark with the lights and the instructor yelling at you.
Can I just tell you? So I did that. I did the exact same thing. So spin was really important to me because I couldn't go out clubbing. A, I had no friends. B,
I hate clubbing. No, but I know what you mean. I hate clubbing, but I love being in the club exercising.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, my clubbing was like Saturday morning, like 8 a.m. spin class.
Same. Like I just am so, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm anti-alcohol. I will drink, but like I'm not a like let me get hammered and go to the club kind of person, because all my experiences with that have been negative.
And standing. I one time I don't get too much like negative stuff online, partly because I haven't posted in forever, partly because I just try to avoid that stuff if I can. But one of the videos I did have some really lousy comments on it was where I talked about how like I struggle with standing for long periods of time. Like I would rather do 4 CrossFit classes, or I don't know, like go for a I don't know, any type of physical activity. I would probably pick that over standing for half an hour, like anything.
100%, I agree with you.
Yeah, standing, because of the blood pooling. It's because of how it starts to hurt.
My hyperextending my knees is one of the worst things that like I can physically do to myself. I went to a Vampire Weekend all standing concert at the Hammersmith Apollo last year, which was really, really fun. But the entire time I like was trying to focus on the concert, but also was just thinking my knees really hurt right now because I'm hyperextending my knees. And like I had to stand on one leg, stand on the other leg, try and squat down a little bit sometimes just to like engage the correct muscles. Like I was so constantly hyper aware of how my body feels in that moment rather than being able to be present and enjoy the thing. So sometimes it's like not even worth going to a concert that I really want to go to if I'm not going to enjoy myself, because I have to stand.
I've never been to a concert. I know. I really want to go to one day. I know. We need. I will do it one day. Well, tell me when there's a good one. I will go. But yeah, it's partly. I was always like trying to think, why don't I want to go to one? And it took me a long time to realize that it's because standing in line. Yeah. Like to get in, having to stand to watch it, like that's just a whole box of horrors. Have you seen those like collapsible stools?
My boyfriend's sister has one of them, and she always brings them when I'm around her and go out with her. But like,
does she bring it for you?
Well, she wasn't at this concert. She actually had to sell her ticket last minute, so we all went without her anyway. But it was, we did go a few years ago to a music festival in Gunnersbury Park.
Nice.
Where
I know Gunnersbury Park.
Yeah. We saw Muna. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know Muna.
They're a band from America.
Yeah.
And Boy Genius was the other band who was playing there. Yeah. And she brought the little stool, and we were just like sitting and standing on the little stool together. It was really fun. So she has inspired me to consider purchasing one of them. But also, I think it's less weird doing it outside than it would be inside.
Yeah, so I asked Dave, I'm like, because I didn't get to go clubbing as much as I didn't get to go very much at all, right? So I know I'm old now, but like I have like a dream of like, you know, seeing this. I know it's not how it is anymore. I know all the nightclub venues are shutting, but you know, like what it's presented as being. I like wish I could have experienced that. And I asked Dave, I'm like, can I bring like a collapsible stool to a nightclub? And he's like, probably not, because they might think it's like a weapon, or I guess you're not supposed to bring seating. You're supposed to pay for seating. I don't want to pay for seating. I just want to sit down for 2 minutes. Like,
exactly.
That's it. So,
go to the bathroom. Sit on the toilet.
Dude, I've done that. Same. Like the few times I go out, I'm like,
it's a break.
Exactly. Take my sweet time. Abby, in terms of...
Oh, sorry. I forgot to talk about the actual thing you asked me about, like my journey back into fitness.
We got on a tangent. That's okay. Journey into life.
Yeah.
Tell me about fitness.
So I started doing the spin classes. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm noticing that this is a positive thing in my life, but I also still feel in pain in a lot of ways that I don't know how to address. So I'm not entirely sure what sparked it. Like there wasn't one morning where I woke up and I was like, I'm going to start lifting weights. But I moved into a building that had a gym in it. And I was like, well, my spin studio now is kind of far from where I currently live. And I have a gym here. And my parents have a Peloton. And if you have a Peloton and you like have the group membership, you can basically put other people on your membership, like your children in this case, and they can use the classes that are on the app. So I was like, fantastic. I'm going to do the beginning strength Peloton classes.
Why not?
Why not? Because I have a gym now that I pay for in my rent. I might as well use it. So I started doing that. And my goal to myself was like, I'm going to go to the gym once a week for 30 minutes and try and strength train.
That's such a sensible amount. So many people, they're like, I'm going to go to the gym like an hour, like every other day. And that is how you crash and burn. Yeah. You were like, I'm just going to see if I can survive.
Yes. For me, it was more about like, am I going to hurt myself?
Yeah. This is, we talk to us a lot, I think. And, you know, my work with you as a patient, but it's like trialing things and tests, you know, you can always do more, you know, so let's just take it slow. So you did this experiment, you survived.
Well, the first few times I did like I just did body weight exercises. Like I didn't really do that much weight. And what I realized was that I actually liked having a goal that was outside of work and outside of, my social life that was just for me.
What was your goal?
My goal was to just go to the gym once a week and
Just to show
do the
up.
thing, like
Love
show
it.
up, because I don't know, after you graduate and you're in the real world and you're living your life, it's like, how do I continue to challenge myself in ways? And like, I was always that kid that liked to succeed at stuff, and no one is giving you gold stars anymore. So I was like, I need to do this for myself. So I started doing that with the gym. After going and doing it, I was like, I kind of like this. Like, I don't know why I like it. I can't really put my finger on what is positive about it for me, but like, I wasn't really starting to see any change in my physical like pain. It was more just, okay, this is something that I'm trying.
Can I ask you a question? Because
Yeah.
I think what some people enjoy, at least I know for me with strength training, what I enjoyed, especially at the start, was feeling something other than pain, which sounds really dark.
Yes.
When you have chronic pain and then you go and you do something to your muscles, you do an exercise correctly without injuring yourself. Key is that you do it correctly without injuring yourself.
Yes.
You then have that feeling of healthy muscular fatigue.
Exactly.
Which is technically, it's a healthy inflammatory process for remodeling that tissue. And that feels so pleasant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of building off that also, when I'm in the gym, I feel like I'm not using, yes, you're using your brain to exercise, but like the loud and anxious thoughts are not as present because my body is tired.
Yeah.
So it's not like my brain is also tired then. And so the thoughts that are the compulsive anxiety, that's quieter.
Have you heard of heavy work?
No. What's
So I don't have diagnosed ADHD, but there's a lot.
Yeah. I do. So,
there we
yeah.
go. There we go. We all know how it is. But I used to, I've had boyfriends over the years, and they'd come home and be like, Alex, why have you moved all the furniture in the flat? And it did tend to correlate with me being a bit like anxious or something going on. And for me, I started to realize when I learned about heavy work, which is a term for types of exercise or movements or different activities that people will do sometimes to kind of, and again, I'm not a mental health expert, okay, this is not my area of expertise, but it kind of like helps to calm you down a bit and lets you just feel a bit more, as you said, like it takes all those like scattered thoughts away and just makes you feel more at peace, I guess I would say. When I learned about that, I was like, oh, this is why I really like strength training. And for me, it's not even about the physical aspects. Like my number one concern is how my mental health would deteriorate if I'm not able to exercise. That's my greatest fear. I think you and I've talked about that. But yeah, that's heavy work. You have a new word
I
now.
relate to that so much. Like it just like silencing the obsessiveness in my brain is really one of the main reasons that I work out.
Yeah.
But so kind of like what you were saying, I started like noticing those feelings that like it was quieter in my mind when I was doing this, and I was feeling things other than pain in my body. And that's when I started to see you at this point. And I told you about like my physical pain and we started addressing it, but you also were like, let's try and work on your gym routine. Like, do you do strength training? And if so, what do you do? So we would like talk about what I did and you would recommend things. And I started actually not just like, doing my like lifting 3 kilogram weights or 5 kilogram weights that, you see all the people at the gym who say they don't want to get bulky lift. Like the Pilates girls.
Oh,
No shade to the Pilates girls. You do you. But
No,
like,
we love Pilates,
Yeah.
but the whole, what do you call it? Pilates princess body? Have you heard of this?
it's crazy to me.
It's terrifying.
I have no shade to the Pilates girls. Some of my best friends are Pilates girls. And if that's what you want to do it, girl.
But you should be, I think people should be as a healthcare provider, okay? I think people can train or do exercise for whatever reason they want. But if you're looking to reduce your pain or manage your symptoms, we need to be prioritizing functionality over visual appearance. And I just say that because I used to get really self-conscious of having large shoulders. I have a large bony frame.
Yeah.
I just do have large shoulders. And I was really, really nervous to put muscle mass on them. But the muscle mass of my very muscular, quite bulky, to be honest, shoulders. Yeah, I don't have shoulder pain all the time. And it's like, I think back to when I was so scared of being big, and it's like, when you start to read, discussions of how people sometimes feel about taking up space. Like it came from a lot of different places, but I was so scared to take up space, and that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, people can want whatever they want, but just if you're listening to this and you're nervous to take up space, or you're nervous about looking bulky or big, like maybe try and reframe it, at least for me, by focusing as you did on what I'm trying to achieve. So I just, for me, the path to getting to the healthy or as healthy as possible place I am now was to think of like, how can I do different movements? How can I keep improving, you know, myself and the function of my body?
Also, you're not going to get bulky. Like,
Yeah, it's hard.
you're not going to get bulky. You have to actively try to get bulky to get bulky.
It's been 10 years of me trying my hardest and I'm not that big.
So like, when people say that to me, I'm just like, you're going to be, just lift weights. You're not going to get bulky. If anything, you're going to get more toned.
Oh, 100%.
Like, and so I started lifting heavier. Like,
I love that.
And I was, thanks to you, I was scared to do it because I was like, am I going to injure myself? What am I going to do? Like, how can I be sure that this isn't going to hurt me? Because there's that like voice in my head that's constantly being like, you're doing this wrong. Like, you're going to hurt yourself. Be careful. Like, overthinking every single thing that I do. And I think one of the things that's been, I guess, like the most difficult for me on my journey to becoming a more fit individual is finding the balance between when I am maybe going to injure myself and when I actually can push myself and be safe doing it, and knowing when to back off and when to like actually push myself. It's such a thin line sometimes.
It's really hard. I'm going to say, like, even I still struggle at it, and I'm probably pretty darn good at that.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. Knowing your body is difficult. I call it being your own coach. And I think when I work with patients, you know, in terms of your experience as well, like, I think that what helps me sometimes get better results, especially for patients who have that athletic background or patients who do want to, you know, do a bit more kind of physical activity. I think that is really my niche, of course, is hypermobility, but my niche within that is kind of athletic hypermobility, I would say, or people who want to be athletic, even if they're not. But it comes down to really, you know, accepting that voice is there. And sometimes that anxiety voice is there, and acknowledging that it might not be a bad thing. Sometimes it's there because of a history of injury and trauma and, you know, stuff you've been told. But looking at it and saying like, hey, you know, let's break down this movement in a lot of detail. Let's make sure we're not missing anything. Let's take that sports specific or that elite athlete type of approach and see, like, how are your feet positioned? How are your knees positioned? Are you bracing? You know, how are you holding the barbell? It's all of these little micro adjustments.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the average person probably with normal connective tissue or collagen typical connective tissue or whatever, they can get away with having anything like less than perfect technique. But when you're hypermobile, because you're more vulnerable to injury, there is that risk. If you're not doing everything perfectly perfect or as close to that as possible, your risk of injury is going to be higher. And again, I don't want to stress anyone listening to this, you know, because like you know, it's hard just to go, and you have to start at a certain place and try your best. But one bit of advice that I try to give my patients, and that I'm so happy I just kind of stumbled into because of my work early on in my career with professional athletes, is just seeing that it's okay to want to be really good at something. Yeah, like a lot of people can do a squat, but can you do a squat anywhere close to the level that someone who's like a professional athlete, you know, their biomechanics, can we try and emulate, you know, that and get it right for your body? But like, are we really looking at those little details with the amount of thoughtfulness that they deserve?
Absolutely. Like, the thing that really changed the game for me was when you taught me more about like, it's more important to make sure your form is correct before you start lifting heavy than it is to just start lifting heavy.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the correct form, you're going to injure yourself, and not just injure yourself, but you're not going to succeed in trying to do what you're setting out to do. So if I want to, you know, actually deadlift weight on the bar rather than just the bar, I have to make sure that my deadlift form isn't A, injuring me, and B, like, is actually, and I'm engaging all the correct muscles, because I found that I wasn't making any progress until I learned, okay, this is how you actually engage your core. Like, I remember one of our first sessions, you taught me actually how to engage your core. And I said to you, should it feel like I have to pee when I'm doing this?
Yeah, it's a pelvic floor and core. There's like a lot going on in there. We'll get into that in more detail in another podcast. But it's hard to feel muscles and joints, you know, in your extremities. The core stuff is something like even I'm still working on. So I've talked with you about the personal training I'm doing for myself right now, where we're focusing on some gymnastics-based movements. And to this day, like, I am still learning, I'm still developing there. And for me, it's been a 10-year plus very intensive journey. So it's something even when it comes to barbell movements, once in a while, like I'll forget to brace or whatever, but it's being able to do those self-corrections. I think once you know what it should feel like and should not feel like and how to cue yourself and in a sense become your own coach, then you're able to have a lot more success over time because you're not getting injured. And it's also more fun.
Exactly.
Because we need fun, because when you're like dealing with chronic health issues, chronic illness and chronic pain and stuff, it's like, it's a bit depressing.
Oh, really depressing. So you need a good playlist to make it fun sometimes.
And you need movements. I think it's good to have goals that let you feel like a bit of badass. So like, I remember when I got a bodyweight deadlift and I felt like, queen of the world, or like my first pull up or whatever. So again, those movements are not safe or appropriate for everyone, but for the patients where they are safe and appropriate and we can work toward them, the journey's just as good as getting there sometimes too.
Even if you don't feel it in the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I'm working on trying to get my first dips. I've never had a dip. I'm very nervous. Front of the shoulder stuff stresses me. We'll talk about my shoulders another time, but that's a movement I've always wanted. I've never been able to have it. I scale it, so I'm doing again what I have done with you. So sometimes we cut the depth to make sure that we're moving really, really nicely instead of obsessing over full range, which I think is overrated sometimes. But yeah, working on that, technique first and foremost, and just taking our time. Yeah. Abby, is there anything else you want to touch on real quick? I was thinking self-treatment and being weird. Can we talk about being weird at the gym?
Absolutely. I would love to talk about being weird at the gym. It's my specialty.
Perfect. Tell me about that.
So one of the things I do at the gym, which I think people would look at me and question, what is this woman doing, is Alex has introduced me to these like metal and wooden tools. I don't know what else to call it.
Okay, let me do a little explainer. It's instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization. There are different protocols out there. I do not do those with patients, even though I'm actually certified in one of them. I just don't like it. I do my own protocol with patients because people who are hypermobile, the tissue is a bit different. You have to be careful. It's softer, more sensitive, more prone to injury. But with my protocol, we use it almost, I call it like mini foam rolling. Like we're using that little edge just to subject the tissue to a mechanical stimulus, to force some blood flow there, to warm it up, and to really get on spots that you feel like maybe you can't quite warm up in a normal warm up. Like for me with my shoulder, I used to feel like there was a spot in the front of the shoulder and I would try and stretch it, but nothing quite got to it. But I had that little, and again, it doesn't matter if it's, you can get stainless steel instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization tools. There are some plastic ones, wooden ones, whatever. I once used an M&S wooden spoon. I was desperate in the gym like a couple months ago and I'm like, my shoulder, I can feel it right there and I just need something to get on it. But regardless of what it is, it's a way that you can just kind of get in and mobilize that tissue, a form of self-massage that I find works really, really well for myself and for people who are hypermobile.
Well, like one of the things I'll do is that, let's say I did it yesterday. Like I was doing upper body yesterday and I was doing overhead press and it felt like there was a part of my right shoulder that I absolutely could not like engage properly. And it was like, when it feels like one of your, I'm going to use the wrong word for this, but like muscle things is underneath one of the other ones.
Like a tendon?
A trapped nerve or like some sort of something like that.
It's that feeling of something being stuck. We talk about like a freedom of movement sometimes, but it's like, something is not quite moving as it should. I think that sensation.
So I put the bar down. I stepped away.
Very proud. That's, key role here. Yeah.
And I took out my tool from my little Lululemon gym bag and I started just like scraping myself. And people at the gym will look at you like, what are you doing? But I also think that I'm probably not the weirdest person at the gym. Like there are people who are on phone calls sometimes. There are people who are like...
There's a lot of special people.
Yeah, there's a lot of special people at the gym. So I feel less weird because I'm not, taking a phone call in front of like 50 other people. But I'm like actively doing something to make my body feel better. Yes. But yeah, I stepped away, did that, came back. I also realized at that point, like, okay, I reassessed. I started lifting again. I was like, okay, I still don't feel like 100% good about this movement. I'm going to lower the rep count that I want to do.
Love it.
I'm also not going to continue on with working the front of my shoulder today. Like I'm going to do some lats instead just to see how, like, test it out, see if other muscles are also giving me the same kind of trouble. And that's one of the things that I feel like has really helped me be more like comfortable in my body and also be comfortable at the gym, being able to be weird and like step away and maybe not always be fully working out when you're at the gym, like being okay taking up space and like letting your body feel a certain way for a little bit and then trying again and not overdoing it. Like when you feel something, back off. Don't just force yourself through it. I really have had to come to terms with being okay with that.
Yeah, no, I think of it as being kind to your body. So like a good program for anyone long term is going to involve being kind. And that day your shoulder was like, hey, I'm not feeling this.
Yeah.
You took that opportunity, you took that information, you made a decision. You were your own coach. You stepped away, tried to do some stuff to see if you could adjust it. And I think this is key. And this is how I work with patients because I think it's what's helped me get progress. Because if you didn't have things for you to try when that happens, you would kind of just be stalling. We want to have ways that you can self-correct or try to manage it.
And also not give up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what bothered me the most. Like I'd be like, I'm in pain. I have to stop doing this because it's going to continue the pain. And I would just go home and be sad on my couch. You don't have to go home and be sad on your couch. You can continue working out, but you can just do something else that isn't hurting you.
If you can find something. So there are some days, man, I swear like everything. But no, absolutely. The more options you have, the better. I think it's having that wealth and that education, you know, background. And hopefully what I do is help educate my patients so that you can look at like all the resources you have in the gym and try and figure out, you know, what you can do or cannot do. And really leaning into that, again, coming back to kindness, you know, finding what your body needs on that given day and giving it to yourself. Yeah. And that's why with programming, you've even seen in how I program, it's not like week 1, do this, week 2, we do this. We have a framework. And then if you feel good, you can do more. And if you don't feel so good, you can do less. And if you need to do something different, then you do something different. And I think that's ultimately what this is all about. I think it's that being able to accommodate different needs in different ways. Yeah. Which is a challenge. But it's also, I think it is in a way, like, again, not saying this is a positive, like nobody would wish to have a connective tissue disorder, be hypermobile or whatever. But the one kind of good thing about it is you get to know your body and yourself, I think, in a really deep way.
Oh, absolutely. Like you kind of have to come to terms with always checking in on yourself in a way that I feel like people who don't experience this maybe don't need to.
Yeah. It's on autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some days I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do that. But also I am grateful in a way for knowing my body so well at this point that like I, knock on wood, can hopefully prevent as much injury as possible because I know these things.
Well, absolutely. And look, the way I see it is like injuries happen. You saw me, I injured my back badly 3 months ago.
I feel you.
That was rough. Did nothing, by the way. Just like went on a normal car journey.
Being in your 30s.
Hey. Oh, I love it. But yeah, no, it's like, look, injury will come for us all, whether you slip on, I don't know, a banana peel, who can say, right? But the ideal situation is that your body is resilient enough, like you've done a bunch of strength training, which will help with things like bone density, by the way, and other stuff, where then when you're like me and you fall flat on your face running for a train, instead of fracturing things, you are kind of okay and can come to clinic and see your patients.
Exactly.
Anyways, Abby, this has been fantastic. We didn't have time to go into you being a Dungeons and Dragons master.
Love that DM lifestyle. Yeah.
We need to have you back on one day to talk about that. I know we have talked about doing an event as well, maybe one day. So if anyone wants that, leave it in the comments. It might happen one day. But yeah, is there anything, like, if you could turn back time and talk to little 12-year-old aggressive basketball player Abby, who's not letting go of that ball, would you is there any like advice you'd give her or anything
I think 2 things. I think the first thing I would say is take a deep breath. Like, remember why you're here. You're not here to fight other girls. You're here to play basketball. And the second thing I would say would be like, maybe start lifting weights. I know you're 11, but like, one of the best things you'll be able to do for yourself is control your own destiny in terms of like athleticism. And the earlier you start doing that, the better you're going to feel in the long term, because so many people you see as they age, like people who aren't physically active or can't be physically active, I feel like I've seen, and this is just an anecdote, age faster. Like
no, it's not an anecdote. It's very proven in research. Yeah.
So like, if you can just keep moving your body as much as possible in ways that are safe, do it.
No, 100%. I wish I could have told myself like, hey, like strength train, like don't just spend 4 hours in the pool.
No Animal Crossing. Well, no. Yes, Animal Crossing. Yes, Animal Crossing. But also maybe do some bicep curls.
Exactly. It's it comes down. We'll do another episode one day on like childhood hypermobility. We'll get an expert on, hopefully,
Yeah.
in pediatrics and stuff, because I'm not one. But what I can say from my experience is 100% if I had a child, I would be talking with them about like we would be doing family gym
Yeah.
stuff together, little baby weights.
To show them that it's not scary.
Yeah.
Like that it's also not just to, like you said, like get bulky, like do all those things.
Yeah.
It's to maintain your normal state.
Yeah, to feel strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I find, at least when I feel strong, feeling stronger on the outside makes me feel stronger on the inside.
Oh yeah, same.
So
Also, like when
it's-
my D&D characters are really strong, I want to be able to be that strong too. So sometimes I like try and channel like one of them. I'll be like, okay, what would she be doing? How would she be training to go out?
I love it, Abby. Abby, thank you again for your time
course.
today.
Thank you,
Please come
Alex.
back. We really need to talk about D&D. I've only played once, but maybe we can change that.
Would love to.
But thank you again, and I hope to see you back here soon.
Thank you, Alex.